ESPN Sunday Countdown. He's Scott Spreitzer, and he's here to help make sure your picks pay out with Rock and Manooch on Fox Sports 910.
All right, everybody, welcome back in. We are indeed going to have a great conversation with Scott. He's here to help you win some money, which is what we are here for as well. Scott Spreitzer, how are you, pal? It's Jimmy B and Manooch.
I'm doing well, guys, man. Just getting ready for the big weekend. A lot of great games.
Well, we're going to start with those because we went through some of them. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And before we get going, you being Mr. Cornhusker yourself, you did get the memo that the game is tonight.
Yeah.
Nebraska taking on Illinois. Friday night college football. Not a fan, Scotty. I'm a high school guy because I do the broadcast. But is this game the yawner of the weekend? Nebraska? Don't be afraid to mix in a win, Coach Ewell, and taking on the Fighting Illini.
Well, I got the memo that the game's tonight. I'm not sure if some of the players got the memo that the season has started after watching last week. Guys, I actually did something I haven't done all season. I actually took the points with the Huskers tonight when they were 3.5. And, and I'll make it quick, but I was just going to say that the one thing they did before Michigan is they ran the football and they stopped the run. They were allowing less than 2 yards per carry. They led the nation in sacks. And right now, even after the Michigan game, you're talking about over 200 yards rushing per game gained on offense. They allow less than 80 yards per game rushing on defense. And Illinois has been just as bad as it gets running the football and stopping the run. They're terrible. And real quick on that Bielema, last year they started 7-1 straight up. They were 6-2 against the spread. And if you throw out an anomaly against Northwestern, they're 3-7 since, and they average 17 points per game. So this is a big game. By the way, after Michigan's game last week, the very next day on Sunday, Matt Rule made them come out in full pads and have a full practice. So we're going to see how the players react to all of a sudden being on the field on Sunday after your coach being unhappy with the way you played on Saturday. But Illinois is no Michigan. I think Nebraska gets the win.
All right, here's a little sidebar story. They had a fire in Champaign at the stadium.
I saw that.
Yeah.
That's a new phrase, burning down the house, right?
That's it. You got that right.
The roof is on fire.
Yeah, yep. Maybe they're trying to exorcise the demons in Illinois and Champaign.
Anything. All right, let's go to some of the games then, and we'll start with number 1, Georgia. Minus 14.5 at home, and they are hosting an undefeated, ranked 20th Kentucky team. Where are you?
Yeah, Kentucky fresh off that big win over Florida. Every once in a while, about every other week, I have a game that I kind of smack myself with the palm of my hand on my forehead and go, what was I thinking leaving that game off my sheet? And Kentucky came close to being a play last week, and I left them off, and then they ransacked Florida. But the problem with me in this one, and Georgia's being kind of, I think, undersold because they haven't really blown anybody's doors off yet, and they played a soft slate. Devin Leary, the transfer for Kentucky, he was 9 of 20 for 69 yards, 3.5 yards per attempt last week, and he's been inaccurate. He's like a 57% passer. He didn't impress earlier against soft opposition. 9 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions against Vanderbilt, Akron, Eastern Kentucky, and Ball State before last week's game. So the passing game is suspect. They also don't stop the pass. And, the Bulldogs, once again, quick and strong on defense, top 5 in defensive passing success rate in that metric, which means they don't give up like at least 50% of what's needed on a down to get a next first down. They've been excellent on third downs. They're explosive. They don't allow explosive plays. And then with Kentucky's offense, guys, being one-dimensional, unable to throw the football, I think Georgia can slow this offense down and go on and get the win and cover.
All right, Scotty, the second game, the early game. Matter of fact, I think they started tailgating about a half hour at the Texas State Fair. Oklahoma, number 12, OU taking on number 3, Texas. 5.5, Texas. I, quite frankly, just my opinion, I really believe that the Texas blows the doors off, much like last year against Oklahoma. So which way are you leaning on this? You going with the over-under, or are you going to go with the 5.5?
I got a very small play. Talk me off the ledge, guys. I got a very small play on the Sooners plus the points. And many, including myself, and you obviously just talking about it, have sung the praises of Texas. I think they're a playoff contender as we see it. And OU, of course, and they're flying under the radar, haven't really played anybody of note. They can sling the football, though. They got a really good quarterback. They got a defense that's been tough against the run. Again, relative to who they're playing, we got to see if they can do it against the Longhorns. And then you look at Texas, and outside of the Alabama game, they've not been tested yet. I mean, Kansas finds out minutes before the game they're not going to use their starting quarterback due to back issues. So Texas doesn't even see Kansas at their best. I think the Sooners could do some damage. I love Texas up front, the front four, in fact, the front seven. But the secondary is a question mark to me, and I think OU can hang around in this one and keep it close. You know, Manuch, you played – I do a show on Wednesday nights with Rob Zadechka, who played for Nebraska when they won those championships in the mid-'90s, and he played for the Giants for 6 years. And I asked him one question. How long in a game does motivation off a bad loss to a rival, you know, like an ugly loss, how long does that revenge motivation last? Because I suspect it's about maybe 3 plays, and he said maybe 1 play. Yeah. After that, it's all about, you know, taking care of business and what you got to do, X's and O's. So I'm guessing you probably feel the same way.
Yeah, the hype is bigger than the game itself. At that point, it's all bulletin board material all week long, 49, zip, blah, 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 this and that. Eventually, you got to get back down to the game, and I think this game is one of those. And I think this is where Quinn Ewers really shows who he is and how far he's come in reference to Gabriel and what he's going to do for OU. I think it's a shootout for the quarterbacks, quite frankly, Scotty.
I'll be candid with you here. It's a very small play, smallest play I possibly make when I bet games on OU, and it starts at 9 a.m. Pacific and Mountain Time. And what I'm thinking about doing, guys, is stand up late tonight, sleep it in, wake up about 12:15, and take a real quick peek at the score.
3.
Fair enough. All right, let's get to Ohio State, -20, and they are hosting the Fighting Terrapins of Maryland. And Maryland is undefeated, and they have an NFL caliber QB. What do you got?
Yeah, I didn't personally play this one, but I do have a strong opinion on this one. And, you know, that Ohio State defense, I should say offense, hasn't been great at running the ball at times this year. But Kyle McCord doesn't make costly mistakes. And he wasn't great against Dame until it really mattered. And then we saw him play really focused football over those final couple of drives that they had against the Irish. The Buckeye defense, obviously excellent in both traditional statistics and newfangled metrics. I've had Maryland a couple of times this year, including that game against Michigan State when the scandal broke with Tucker. That was that week. And it was kind of a half a play against Michigan State as much as it was on Maryland. But they're so on the ground, and their defense, you would think, would have better metrics and traditional stats when you consider the slate of opponents they played. They've been pretty easy. I have Ohio State 16 points better than Maryland on a neutral field. It got up to 20, and that took me off of it. It's dropped down to 18.5, 19, but still not low enough for me to play. I think this was the perfect number.
2.
You know, for me, 16 on a neutral field. I make it 19 with home field advantage. I don't make every team a 3 or a 4 or whatever. I think home field advantage can be overvalued. But again, 19 or 20, I think, is the perfect number. If I had to make an opinion, if you made me make a bet, I'd lay it with Ohio State now that it's dropped down a couple of points.
Now we do one more. We got about a minute here, Scott. We're going to forego the Cardinals and Bengals. Let's go Notre Dame, 6.5 favorite over number 25, Louisville, 10 versus number 25. Louisville undefeated as well, too, in Louisville. Do they cover that bad boy? Which way are you leaning on this?
I like Louisville in this one, guys. I played them over 8 wins this year. We're off to a perfect start. If they win this one, I'm going to feel pretty good about that over 8 wins. I have Jeff Brom and his staff rated higher than Marcus Freeman's, and I'm not trying to knock Freeman, but I think Brom's the better coach, and his staff is too. Freeman and his staff make some odd decisions. We've seen it a couple of weeks in a row. They've tailed off in the second half against both Ohio State and Duke. But third straight, tough game, intense battle, and they're doing it on the road. Place is going to be packed. Louisville's offense is fantastic. Listen, I know they won late against Duke, the Irish, but it was +2 turnover margin, part of that. I think Louisville covers the spread here.
Always great, pal, when you come on the show and hang out with us. Great insight as always. Enjoy the game, Scott.
Take care, guys.
See ya.